The Drew Bledsoe comp is an interesting one because if he turns out to be Drew Bledsoe, is that enough? I've said before, I'm not sure it is. 4-time Pro Bowler, 3 times in New England, 1 Super Bowl appearance, they lose. It's definitely better than Mac Jones, but I'm aiming a little higher than that.
What if he's really cute as a guest?
I'll settle for some of that in the short term. It's hour number 2. Jones and Mego with Arcan. Here on WEEI.
What's going on, Adam? What's going on, man? Y'all doing all right?
What's up, Drake?
I can't wait to see him again.
I don't know if Curran's timeline is right. I don't know when we're going to be talking to him. Here's what I don't get about the Drew Bledsoe comp that he's so adamant about there. Drew Bledsoe played 13 games as a rookie, and was he in there week 1? He had 12 starts. So. I think he was in and then got hurt, I think is what happened. And maybe that's a cautionary tale, and you could say it's like, oh, it was a different NFL then. But, like, to me, Drew Bledsoe got better at the end of his rookie year. Yeah, I wonder why. He started week 1. Oh, gee, I wonder why. I wonder why he got better at the end of the year. Maybe it's because he started at the beginning of the year, and he figured something out. So, like, this idea, I argued about this with Andy a little bit when he was in last week, Arcan, and when Mego was out, or the week prior, whenever it was. It's all running together. But it's like, why do you think Drake Maye can start week 5 or 6? That was Andy's stance. Or if you're Tommy Curran, why do you think he can start week 13? But he can't start week 1. Like, if we're all talking about year 1, to me, there's value in getting out there, learning on the fly, even if you get the crap kicked out of you. Drew Bledsoe, I think, was better for that. He was good at the end of the year. He was a Pro Bowler in year 2. Starting him in year 1 wasn't the problem. And so, I don't think. And so, to me, that's how I feel about Drake Maye, and that's ultimately where I come down on it. If you think he's going to be ready in week 5, start him week 1. And if you think he needs to watch or whatever, that's what the preseason's for. That's what training camp is for. That's what mini camp and rookie camp and OT, that's what those are for. He needs mental reps. He needs to learn by watching. That's what you use the preseason and the offseason for. The games, I want him out there learning and getting better. He's not going to do that holding a clipboard with his hat backwards, watching effing Jacoby Brissett. He's not.
So I agree with you on the point about him starting weeks 4 or 5. Like, if you're going to have him on that timeline, then I don't think it's so different than week 1. I don't really get that difference, what he's going to learn in 4 weeks. I do think that it's possible that he could develop behind the scenes through 12, 13 weeks and be a better quarterback and better prepared when he takes the field, because I'm afraid of a situation where he's the kind of guy who goes in there, he feels like he has the weight of the world on his shoulders, and he's a big kid who's gotten by having a good arm and being able to run and be athletic, and it would stunt his development in other parts of the game, being able to read defenses, being able to operate at the professional level, because he's going to the lowest common denominator of what's gotten him by at every other level. And maybe that doesn't look like a terrible performance. Sometimes it does, but then maybe he doesn't become the quarterback that eventually he could be because he's stuck in this kind of arrested development.
Fine. Do you think Drew Bledsoe got into bad habits later in his career because he played early?
No, I think he was just a statue.
Okay.
It was the type of quarterback he was.
This is also what I think. It's just what Drew Bledsoe was. You could have sat Drew Bledsoe for 2 years. He would make bad reads and bad decisions because that's who Bledsoe was. He wasn't going to learn. I don't believe, maybe I'm wrong about this, I don't believe sitting Drew Bledsoe for 2 years, he would have been a guy who wasn't going to throw head-scratching picks and a guy who wasn't just stationary back there. Drew Bledsoe was. I don't, Dion, on this one I don't. Drew Bledsoe was what he was. You could play him year 1, week 1. You could play him year 2. You could sit him for 2 years. That's what Bledsoe was going to be. And so you got to live with it. And I feel the same way about Drake Maye. Now, I think Drake Maye, with the mobility and everything else, I think Drake Maye could have a better career than that. I hope he does for the Patriots' sake. But I don't think the Patriots ruined Drew Bledsoe by playing him year 1. I think he learned in year 1, and by year 2, they were a playoff team because they played him year 1. I think he learned a lot that rookie year.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think you can sort of look back at that 93 team, and there's some similarities here. They didn't have a lot on that team offensively. It was like Greg McMurtry, and I guess they had Ben Coates, but he wasn't Ben Coates yet.
Ben Coates was pretty good, yep.
Vincent Brisby and a couple other guys. But Coates in the 2 years prior to that didn't do anything with, Hugh Millen or whoever it was. And he was just sort of a backup tight end. And then he got good with Bledsoe. But I think that the reason why people are saying this about Maye now is that you look at, that was however many years ago, 11 years ago, or not 11 years ago, 31 years ago, whatever it was. And now
feels like 11 years
ago. It does
ago.
feel like 11.
I hate doing math.
But now, here we are. It's 2024. The offense is a total mess again. and they're hesitant to throw him into it. They're hesitant to throw him into this messy offense and have it be like if there was something intact here, and you wanted to bring in your quarterback and start him week 1, and you felt a little bit better about the offense and what he's going to be walking into, then this wouldn't even be a question. You wouldn't be talking about it at all. He'd be starting week 1, and no one would debate it. The fact that it's such a mess and it's been so bad for so many years, I think has got people hesitant.
Okay.
And I don't think that's crazy.
It's not going to get better as the season goes along,
That's what I
right?
think.
I mean, I do think teams,
I think it'll come into form a little bit more, yeah.
I think good teams get better as the weeks go along. Like, a lot of good teams will be a much better team in week 15 than they are in week 3. But I think this is a bad team, and I don't know that the offensive line is going to get dramatically better from week 5 to week 13.
Me neither. And so, like, I hear that all the time. Well, you got to get the offensive line figured out. I don't know. What if and when you gets hurt? Like, what if instead of it gelling, what if one of your better offensive linemen just gets hurt? And so now, can you not play him? So this is how I would. I think I'm with Mego on this one, Arcan. Like, if you think you can play him halfway through the year and figure out the offensive line or like figure out the weapons around him, just play him week 1. They're all going to be the same weapons. And I would have signed Calvin Ridley. You know, what was the report I sent today from Pro Football Talk? It's like
didn't read it.
Each team in national revenue did $400 million in national revenue. That doesn't include local revenue. So, like, I don't need Robert Kraft up here crying poor about how they couldn't afford Calvin Ridley or whatever. I don't need that. All these owners make money hand over fist. They make out like bandits. So would I feel better about Drake Maye and his chances if they signed Calvin Ridley and Tyron Smith? Hell yeah. That's what I wanted them to do.
Sure.
I'd be pounding the table. They'd be a playoff team if they did that. But they didn't, so I'm more down on their win total. I think they're going to be a 6-win team. But if you think that the offensive line or the skill position players around him, he's unplayable because of that, then you can't play him at all this year. Right?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. The offense could start to round into form a little bit with Jacoby Brissett. Not good or anything, but at least something functional.
So it's
if it's
rounding
completely dysfunctional, then you don't want to put a rookie out there. I understand that line of thinking.
What if the rookie can fix the dysfunction?
Maybe he can, but you don't know that, and that's a big thing to put on a rookie in week 1, someone who's the 3rd overall pick, and you have this big future planned out for. That's just a big thing to do with someone on an offense that's dysfunctional. You can do that with Brissett because who cares? But I'd rather that you see some kind of function happen before you drop him into that. That's what I can completely understand that line of thinking from the Patriots.
Yeah, I don't like it, and I reject it. And if they're planning on playing him midway through the year, play him week 1. If we're going to lean in on this Drew Bledsoe comparison that Curran is doing, Bledsoe played week 1, and I don't think he was worse because of it. I don't think they ruined him by playing him week 1. I think he was what he was. So you got that in year 1. By year 2, he's a Pro Bowler, and by the end of his career here in New England, he was making maddening throws that he was making his entire career. If you think they ruined him by playing him year 1, then we just disagree, and that's fine. But that's not how I feel about it. That's not how Mego feels about it. Arcan?
I don't think they ruined him by doing that.
Yeah.
He was also the 1st overall pick, which I think is a little bit different.
Okay, May's 3. Yeah. I mean, he's not number 1. That's true. But he was
quarterback pick.
Yeah, he was a toss-up with Rick Meyer that year in that draft.